Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be a part of their world. We're your hosts, Jared and James, and today we're talking with Eric Switzer of The Gamer all about the big news from Set 3. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. Last episode, James and I gave our thoughts on Set 2 so far, Rise of the Floodborn. And today we are excited to welcome the one, the only, Eric Switzer of The Gamer. Hey, Eric.
Hello, my friends. I'm so excited to talk about our favorite collectible card game, DC Dual Force.
Yes. How did you know?
Nope, there's only one card game in my heart, and it's the one with the mouse.
Not just the mouse, the mouse is. The mice.
With the mice. There are many mice in this game, and one of them is terrorizing the meta.
Well, it's funny as I was going back through, because I watched The Great Mouse Detective not too long ago. So it's been a while. We watched it with my kids when they were younger all the time. But then I was like, there's the Rescuers Down Under. Like Disney went through a phase where they just really liked mice.
Sure, Cinderella has mice.
Ghost.
Maybe there's more mice I'm not thinking of. Mickey is a mouse.
It's the House of Mouse. I mean, so
Zootopia has mice.
There's got to be mice in Snow White and Cinderella. Not obviously Cinderella, but I meant
woodland creatures.
Right.
Everywhere. Mouse everywhere. It's like
mouse talk.
Why aren't there more cats hunting these mice?
Well, Lucifer is really putting in the work these days. Right? I'll tell you that.
I don't know.
What are we talking about, Jared? What's on the schedule?
Well, we cleared the schedule because you have some news to share with us. We're going to talk about the news.
I do. This is exciting because the embargo's lifted as we start recording, so you fellas have not seen this news. Your listeners have, because we're in the past. But this is going to be a live reveal for the citizens of Lorcana. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, let's go.
Okay. I am excited to share with you that Disney Lorcana Set 3 is officially titled Share Into the Inklands.
Into the Inklands.
That kind of looks like Indiana Jones.
It does look like Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of too.
Give me your first impressions. What are you thinking?
It's very indie, and it's very indie. I mean, and actually that kind of fits because Indiana Jones is all about going on an adventure, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you're getting adventure vibes.
You're on the right track. My first thoughts when I saw this was, I remember when they were teasing Set 1, they talked about how the Inklands were these distinct locations throughout the Great Illuminary. And then my second thought turned to Steamboat Willie Mickey, whose card flavor says something about him traveling the rivers through the Inklands. Like, those were my first two thoughts.
And this is just furthering the story even more, because after the great cataclysm that causes the flood, what do they have to do? They have to figure out where all of the things went that the flood took away. So now they got to go into the Inklands and start.
Where's Oswald?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Our last cinematic showed many Disney artifacts being swept away in the flood, and now we're going to venture into the Inklands to recover them. Can I read you a couple of excerpts from the press release?
Yes.
The set debuts new in-game mini stories and expands featured characters. Into the Inklands will release first at local game stores on February 23rd. About what we expected, right? Okay, so for the first time since the game's launch, players or Illumineers will be able to have their character glimmers visit locations from popular Disney stories, such as Motunui from Disney's Moana or the Jolly Roger from Disney's Peter Pan. Locations are a new card type that open up new strategies. Some give bonuses when characters visit them, while others provide benefits just by being in play. These new location cards will be included among more than 200 totally new cards when Into the Inkland launches. This new set also introduces additional narrative across cards as stories unfold through quotes and descriptive text, allowing players to discover even more links between cards.
There is so much to unpack there.
Yeah, that's a lot, right?
That's
So
a
much
lot.
to unpack.
Locations.
Locations.
I can't even think about how locations work. My mind immediately goes to the Star Wars Decipher game where there were locations that had like ground locations and space locations. But Lorcana so far has existed without locations. So my mind is having a hard time just even imagining how these are going to work.
So let's put a pin in locations, and we'll talk about that more in a second. Let me go through a couple more things here. Okay, a bevy of beloved Disney stories and characters will be making their Disney Lorcana TCG debut and Into the Inklands. Players will now be able to quest for lore alongside fan favorite good dogs like Disney's Pluto,
Yes.
Lorcana dog.
101 Dalmatians Perdita,
Ooh.
as well as characters like Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales,
Oh man.
Scrooge.
Kit Cloudkicker from Tailspin,
What?
and Jim Hawkins and the RLS Legacy crew from Treasure Planet.
Oh my
Wait.
gosh.
Wait a second. Tailspin. That's Disney
Yes.
Afternoon.
Right.
And DuckTales.
Right. But Scrooge has been in other cartoons before.
Yes, but this is DuckTales Scrooge specifically, it says.
Wow.
Yep.
They're bringing in Disney Afternoon. Everyone's going to be so excited. Everyone else
They're going to lose their minds.
This is awesome.
Yeah. And it says specifically bringing late 90s nostalgia to the game.
Yes.
Wow.
So I'll say I've got a little bit more here, but I just want to say that I am so much more excited about this theme just from what we already know compared to Rise of the Floodborn. I love the adventure theme. I love the narrative of venturing out into the Inklands and how that ties to the location cards. I love the whole 90s package and shows like DuckTales and Tailspin that are all about going off on adventures in distant lands, and Treasure Planet too. It's all working together in a way that I don't feel like Floodborn really did.
Well, you had to set things up. There's always the part of, the first act where it's just like, okay, you got to get that setup out. You got to get all of that. What is the word I'm looking for? Where everyone's just sitting around talking about things.
Backstory.
All that
The
stuff.
exposition.
Exposition. That's the word I was thinking of. And just getting all that out. And so that's kind of what we had with Floodborn, was just getting that initial story set. And now we're going on the adventure. So now we're hopping into Act 2, where all the big stuff happens, which is cool.
Yeah. Okay, let me keep going. We've got a little more. So, Into the Inklands continues the story of the Illumineers who were mysteriously transported to the realm of Lorcana after accidentally unleashing a flood of mixed ink that scattered precious lore throughout the realms. Illumineers are now tasked with finding the lore and returning it to the Hall of Lorcana. However, their quest may be more treacherous than they realize, as an ominous shadow storm has been spotted gathering at the edges of Lorcana, adding urgency and mystery to the path ahead.
What does that mean? Is this narrative or is this going to be part of gameplay?
So the earlier when I talked about the the additional narrative across cards as stories unfold through quotes and descriptive text, I'm hoping that means that we'll see more of the story come through in the cards and not just in the animatics and in the booklet, the Trove book. Like actually story coming through in the cards will be really exciting.
But what's this shadow storm? It's essentially it sounds like it's the bad guy, or the nemesis of the lore collecting.
Shadow Storm.
Shadow Storm.
Sounds to me like the ink blot from Epic Mickey. I mean, there are just so many parallels of Disney Lorcana with Epic Mickey.
Final thing here is the product list. So expected stuff, but some surprises. Okay. So we're getting 2 more starter decks, an Amber Emerald and a Sapphire Ruby. Let that sink in. Okay. Booster packs, a new Trove, a new gift set.
Ooh.
A $30 gift set.
Okay.
So something closer to set 1, maybe some more jumbo cards.
Oversized, yeah.
Accessories including card sleeves, deck boxes, card portfolios. So new binders this time.
All right.
And playmats. And that's it. And I'm guessing you guys probably want to see some cards.
That
Wait,
would
wait,
be
wait.
awesome.
I thought you kind of set that up as like stuff we're expecting, but it
Yep.
sounded like there was a surprise. No surprise.
Well, new portfolios. I
Okay.
think that's good news. And
Okay.
gift sets are coming back.
All right. Yes.
Uh,
Let's see the cards.
Okay. Well, first of all, here's another lovely piece of key art. I think you'll enjoy this one for your listeners. Shows a vacationing
Gosh.
Stitch and a pirate Piglet.
That's awesome.
If you've visited the game or you've seen the news, you've already seen this art, but there's that for you guys. All right, let me show you some cards, and then we'll look at the products. So here are 3 new cards for you. So we've got Minnie Mouse, the Funky Spelunker,
Ooh.
a rock climbing mini. She looks like it's a steel 1 cost. It looks like 0-3.
Yeah. Yep.
Ability journey. While this character's at a location, she gets +2 strength at a location.
Nice pun on the flavor text.
She'll never cave under pressure. Yeah, that's good stuff. Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain, a 2/2/2. With the ability, and I'm the captain. While you have 2 or more other characters in play, this character gets +2 lore. And it doesn't look, it's kind of covered, but it doesn't look like it has any lore naturally. Like it only gets the lore if you have 2 other characters in play. That's what I think it is. But it is a super rare. So
This is on theme for the artist. I noticed the artist is Grace Tran, who has drawn a few other pirates, I think.
Oh, nice. Yep, and it's on theme for the expansion too.
Who would have guessed that there would be a pirate Piglet?
Right?
Like,
Yep.
this is what I love about Lorcana or a spelunking mini. I mean, I love that Ravensburger has been giving this a creativity to explore these different ways to express these characters.
Right.
I mean, Minnie with the Floodborne set with the diving and the scooter and all of that. She's just out there like being adventure Minnie, just living her best adventure life.
The third card here is a new Emerald Peter Pan, 4 cost 3/3. Peter Pan, Lost Boy Leader. His ability, I came to listen to the stories. Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, gain lore equal to that location's lore.
What?
Now that tells us a lot.
Yes.
Oh, look at the flavor text there. The Illumineers needed someone to find a missing spell book, and Peter was the first to volunteer.
Interesting. We have a spell book in Amethyst, but could this be a different spell book?
Interesting. I like it. I like his
Was,
costume.
was it the spell book that Martin was jamming out to?
Right? I think it might have been.
So this Peter Pan tells us that characters can move to locations, and it also tells us that locations have their own lore value.
Yes, that's super interesting.
Would you like to see a location?
Yes, please.
Yes.
All right. Take a look at this one. This is Forbidden Mountain,
My
Maleficent's
God.
Castle. Somebody go ahead and unpack this one.
Wow.
Okay.
Go ahead, James.
Tell
Things
us
are
what we
all in
got.
different places, but I'm just looking at everything. So Forbidden Mountain, Maleficent's Castle. It's Amethyst. It's got a 2 cost. It's inkable. It looks like it has. That's a weird symbol. That's not a strength symbol. That's a 1 that kind of looks like a strength symbol, but also not. But it does have a willpower symbol and it's willpower 6, and the flavor text: in eerie quiet surrounds the castle, but beware of the dangerous occupant within. And it has a lore symbol.
What's that lore symbol?
It's gonna be fun to try to guess what's going on here. I think by the time you're listening to this, people have probably had a lot of ideas, maybe even a consensus. I have played some Villainous, and there's definitely some similarities here to Villainous, right? Because that game has locations too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, so obviously characters can move to locations. We don't know what that mechanic is. If they have to exert to do that, maybe now you can challenge quest, sing, or travel. It could be a new exert function, maybe. The willpower tells me that you can attack a location, that you can challenge a location, right?
Yeah.
And banish a location. What could that other symbol mean?
Well, is that the strength of a location?
It's got the hex symbol built into it as part of it. It's kind of got like an ink dropper kind of symbol around it. Because if you look down below on the artist, that symbol turned sideways is the same as the symbol that wraps around near that, around that symbol. But
you're totally right.
It's got that little triangle at the top. So it's got to have something to do with, I think it has something to do with the ink, of course. Something to do with maybe how many characters you can have there, possibly.
Yeah. It could be how many characters can be there. Yeah. It could be because it does have the strength symbol baked into it, like you pointed out. It could be how much additional strength a character gets when they're there.
Yeah, that could be.
It's interesting.
But can we also take a step back and just appreciate this art on this card?
Oh man, yeah, I've just been staring at that.
Phenomenal.
Horizontal cards are going to be that opens a whole new way to look at Lorcana art, right? That's going to be so cool.
Believe it or not, I mean, actually, you probably believe this. The only issue I have with this is that the art is not more of the card.
Yeah.
That's the only issue I have.
Right. Yeah. That it's less than half of the card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, could we get enchanted locations maybe?
Ooh. Yes, please.
and then it has a lore value too, which could mean you get that much more lore when you quest there, or it could replace a character's lore value, and that's how much you get total.
Well, with that Peter Pan card getting the lore amount of the location when he moves there, I'm guessing that there's because you can earn lore on a character normally, and then their abilities sometimes give you extra lore. I'm guessing that there is likely a way to earn lore just with the location.
Yeah.
All right, here's a question. Do you think you'll be able to move to your opponent's locations?
Right. So that's the interesting thing. I have to assume so, because you can challenge a location and banish it, it seems.
I don't think you can move to it though. Technically, I don't know if it's going to be moving to it. I think you're still going to be on your own board state.
Well, in Villainous, both players can move to a location regardless of who played it.
That's true. Okay. So yeah, maybe. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So why would you want to banish your own location? Like you played it for a reason, right?
Right.
It's interesting. It could be something that doesn't fit into like a meta competitive kind of situation, because like you have to play cards that could benefit your opponent. But we just don't know what all the different things locations can do yet. But it will definitely be a really fun and very flavorful mechanic.
And this seems like a very, it's a common. So this definitely seems like the
vanilla,
very vanilla base, generic location. And I'm assuming we're going to get some pretty funky stuff out of these.
Or potentially they could maybe even introduce a new format of play with, location based.
That's true. Yeah. It's also going to really disrupt the card ratios for the set, because as far as I know, it'll still be 204 cards, but now a big chunk of them is going to be locations. And is that going to come out of the pool of characters or the pool of actions? Like, we're going to get less of something else because now we're going to get all these locations, right?
Right.
I would have to imagine
right there in the set. So the locations are getting added. If there's still 34 cards per color with 204 cards, which it says 204, so there is. So that means 34 per color. So that means this is right at the end of the amethyst color run. So there's probably going to be, I mean, based on this, there's at least 30, 66, 67, and 68. There's at least 3 locations in Amethyst.
Yeah.
I would have to
Good
imagine.
math there.
I would have to imagine, since we've had so many characters and they've pumped a lot out already, I'd imagine that they'd probably cut back on the character count. That'd be my guess.
Really cool. I'm really excited to see what locations do to the game, because that could be a big shakeup.
Yes. I'm excited.
I have another thing to show you, and it's all of the products. You want to see that?
Yes.
All right. Here they are.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so what we're looking at is the starter decks. We have our Amber Emerald featuring Perdita, I think, or Pongo, and the puppies, and the Peter Pan we just saw. And then the Ruby Sapphire, which has a new Moana and the Scrooge. We can see our new booster box, which is going to feature our mini, a Jafar, and the Pirate Piglet. And
this
then
golden
Tinkerbell,
coloring is just
Tinkerbell.
throwing me off. I'm not used to there being like a light color palette.
I know
here.
it's really cool, right? It's a nice change.
Yeah, very different color palette. Yeah. Our deck boxes, one has our Scrooge, the same one from the starter deck, and the other one is a new Robin Hood. So a Robin Hood in every set so far.
Look at those playmats.
And then the playmats. Yeah. So I guess we have what to me looks like a new Floodborn Stitch in a spacesuit that I don't think we've ever seen before. That looks original to me. And then the other one I have to assume is Motunui. I think that's probably the location, right? It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like wide frame. It doesn't look like a character card. It has Moana on it. It's not the same Moana that's on the starter deck, and she has her back to us. So I think that's probably what the Motunui location card will be.
Those look so nice.
There's your
it's beautiful.
There's your full art location, James.
Yeah, that's a really nice landscape shot. I really like that a lot.
Man, so much good stuff.
Really good stuff. How exciting.
So cool.
I really do. I'm really enjoying as you mentioned, the lighter palette, the color scheme, and how much it just immediately evokes the Indiana Jones kind of vibe of adventuring and all of that. I mean, it's just so easy to see it just without actually copying anything. It's just pulling into that pop culture-ness of it and just like bringing it right into that space without any effort at all.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for Scrooge McDuck.
Right?
Like, just seeing this right now, I want it in my hand.
So is that it's if you zoom in, it gets a little blurry. I'll see if we have another shot that's more high res, but I think this is all I got. But is that Scrooge from original DuckTales or new DuckTales?
It looks like the new DuckTales to me.
Looks like new DuckTales to me too.
David Tennant DuckTales?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So we'll see. I would sure like to see some OG DuckTales though.
I'm sure we will. We'll see something, right? Well, it's interesting because they said they're pulling from 90s nostalgia, so you'd think they would do the 90s version of DuckTales. So I'm guessing there's going to be has to be some of that in there.
Right. Well, and there's Launchpad is on the new DuckTales, so there's a new version of Launchpad, but the other Tailspin characters are going to have to be the 90s version because there is no new Tailspin.
So on the front of the booster box, there's a new Tink.
Yeah.
And a new Pongo.
Is that the same? Is that Pongo the one that's on the starter deck too?
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And a few of the baby Dalmatians, the puppies.
And it looks like Jafar has recovered the lamp after it got washed away by the flood.
That's no good. And I really want to see the detail on that Robin Hood because
I do too. It's hard to make out.
It's hard to make out with the how small the art is.
Yeah,
he's just lounging.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, laid back with his loot. It looks like he's on a raft.
Yeah, he's just rolling down the ink river.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited for this. Yeah, it immediately has such a clear direction and just like a really cohesive vision. I know there's still 204 cards. We'll have plenty of things that are just a generic character that don't necessarily fit the adventure into the Inklands theme. But just from what we've seen so far, it is like it's going in a good direction.
But even with the vanilla characters, I mean, we got Honey Wizard on a vanilla, and I mean that's just amazing art. So they can, it's just mix it all up. I mean, some of those vanilla characters may have key pieces of flavor text to help with the story.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
This would
there's going to be.
also this would also be a great set to introduce Strange World.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even the
true.
font, even the end of the Inklands key art font, like matches Strange World perfect. I know that's
true.
not everyone's favorite movie. I liked it quite a bit, and it fits that pulpy adventure film thing.
Right. Wow. So much good stuff.
I'm really curious to see how these in-game narratives play out. I mean, the cards, developing stories, and we've been getting like little hints and nuggets of it in set 1 and set 2. And that's what they said in that interview that Samantha McFerrin did, I think, with Dicebreaker, that set 1 and 2 were setting it up, and set 3 is when the story would take off. I think a lot of us are ready to hear that story. And it also makes a lot of sense to me because we've been saying since the beginning that set 3 is when this game should be widely available. I mean, they're expanding to so many markets. They're printing it in Italian. I think that this is the set where they turn it around with product availability. So they want to bring something that will bring people back into the game and bring new people into the game. And this seems like a good way to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I suspect those starter decks will have some locations since that's sort of the new thing. We'll see if there's a new keyword too. I don't know if they told us about bounce and resist when Floodborne was first revealed.
I think resist.
They did. Okay.
They told us about resist. Yeah, that's the only thing they really did was like, hey, there's a new keyword, resist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm definitely most curious about locations and whether that has an impact or if that's just kind of a thing you do in your fun decks, you know?
I'm so excited.
I feel like locations are going to be important for deck building. I really feel like they will. I think so.
We will have to see how they work.
Well, if James feels it, it must be so. All right. What else have you got to show us, Eric?
Well, that's all the set 3 stuff. But I do have a point of criticism, and it's that I think they're still way too early on this. I felt that way in set 2 that they started the hype cycle too soon and kept it going too long, and I think that the beginning of week 3 of Floodborne is way too soon to start promoting set 3. And I get the idea of like wanting to keep the hype train rolling nonstop, but I do think that you have to build it back up sometimes. Because I by the end of set 2, and I'm a content person, so like it is more work for me than the average Lorcana enjoyer, but I was getting pretty exhausted with the trickle of new cards by the end of spoiler season for Rise of the Floodborn. I really just wanted a good 3-4 weeks of just a blast. Every day would be like 5-6 cards, like boom, 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 and just get them all out there. But instead, what we got was like, here's a card, 2-3 days later, here's another card. And it like there was a whole week of just Merlin and Mim. Every day was like one more. And it made me exhausted with Floodborne before it ever came out. And I don't want that to happen again for Inklands. But the fact that we've already started showing stuff off, at the beginning of December when this comes out at the end of February does worry me a little bit that we're going to get that super long trickle again. Do you guys feel that way too?
I want to say a couple things to that point. number one, 100% agree. I kind of didn't want to see anything until after Christmas. Like somewhere around New Year's is when I was hoping to start seeing set 3.
Mm.
That way it gives us time to rest and digest,
And just
set
enjoy the
2.
current set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And for somebody who my Twitter account really loves spoilers because people love, these reveals.
Hmm.
So like I enjoy that, but I just really wanted to enjoy set 2. But to my second point to what you were talking about, I kind of feel like the trickle of card releases for set 2 was strictly because they still don't have their content creator like ambassador
Mm.
program down. I feel like once they button that down, that the release schedule is going to be more tight. And I don't know. That's my hope.
I'd have to say I agree. I would like some time to enjoy the current set more than just a couple weeks. Uh, Even though I did, when I woke up this morning and I was getting ready for work, I'm like, you know, yesterday morning, God, it's been a long time.
Mhm.
When I woke up yesterday morning and I was just like thinking, right about this time 3 months ago, we got the tease for set 2. And I was like, I bet you we're going to get something soon.
It's your
And then, of
fault,
course,
James.
I know, right? I just and it does feel too early. I don't mind really because I mean obviously I enjoy seeing the new stuff and I enjoy seeing the new cards, but also yeah, on the flip side, having that that anticipation of the new stuff and seeing it and the fun of seeing all the new things, having it a bit more condensed probably would help keep the hype uh keep the hype a little bit more condensed into that 6 to 8 weeks before the new set.
You know, I cover a lot of live service games, and to me, a TCG is just another kind of live service game. So I kind of see things like this and like Destiny and Fortnite as all sort of the same thing. And there is a ebb and flow. There's a life cycle to live service games and to hype. And there will come a point during this current season where everybody's going to be kind of bored with Lorcana. And that's when you want to hit everybody hard with the new stuff. And I think that's such an important moment when the meta's been settled. We're playing the same decks every week. We're all kind of ready for the new thing. That's when you blast people with the new stuff and get everybody excited again to keep it going, to restart the cycle. And that this like today, this week is not that moment. And I love this stuff and I'm so excited to see it. And it does get me excited. But I'm still working on my decks for the current set. I'm still refining. We're still trying to figure out the meta. And I think it would have been better to wait a while.
I guess we'll have to wait and see if they started adjusting accordingly based on the, as you mentioned, the ebb and flow of letting the set sit for a month before even attempting to get into the upcoming set.
Right.
I,
Wait until people are mad.
I feel like that's funny. I feel like if they announce it this early, that's fine, give us a little tease, but as far as like really digging into it and getting the reveals out, give us some time. Wait until the new year. January is such a boring month anyway that doing set, reveals in January would be so much fun. I really, as much as I'd love to see the new cards as soon as possible, I would much rather wait until January because I feel like it's going to be more meaningful than, because like you say, we're going to be upset at the meta. We're going to be so over popsicle
Right.
control.
Yeah. And that's probably a good segue into I want to talk about the meta. But the last thing I will say about this is like this is when they do this reveal with the name and the products and some cards and the mechanics, like the genie's out of the bottle now and it has begun. And now the conversation is, are we going to get Darkwing Duck? Are we going to get gargoyles? And it's going to be that nonstop until this comes out. And now it's going to be like, oh, we saw all those cards 2 weeks ago. When are we going to see more? Why are we waiting so long? Like now
Yeah.
it has to
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
It has to like trickle now. Like they've set it up that way, or
So
else
I
people are
think
going to get weird.
we'll probably get like a card a week or something like that for the rest of the month. We'll get a Christmas surprise. They'll
Right.
drop us some Christmas present of a card or something like that.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah, I
even
think
if they stop now until Christmas, that won't be good either, right?
right.
Because now we've seen
Like what's going
something.
on? Where's the stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
don't know,
basically
unless they set up that expectation that, we're revealing this now. Stay tuned for more information at the start of the new year. But you read the press release and it doesn't sound like that's in there.
No, that's not in the press release, but that could always come up on the Discord or something. They could give us a clear timeline and that would definitely help. Yeah. But that also hurts the surprise factor because this was a cool surprise.
it was. Even
Oh,
though
yeah.
I was thinking
This was
about it,
fun.
even though I basically predicted it and made it happen, it's a surprise.
So should we talk Popsicle?
Yeah, so you wanted to talk some meta, and I think Eric, you have actually a pretty cool story from locals on Monday night,
Oh yeah.
which is
Um
pretty funny.
so I couldn't figure out what deck to bring. The first deck I built this season was I always play Emerald Steel. So I did an Emerald Steel Prince John discard deck and I thought it was good. I still think it's okay. I'm tweaking it a bit. I got to play it once and I got creamed by Popsicle. Creamed by Popsicle. And of course everybody knows Popsicle's the deck of the day. So I started putting one together. I was running out of time on Monday with work and stuff, so I just pulled up. I had watched Steadfast. I had watched his video on YouTube of his build, so I just threw that one together to play. I go play my game, first match, mirror match, almost the same deck, just a couple slight differences from the one version I was running. And it's a good game. I win the first one, lose the second one, win the third one. So I win the 2 out of 3. And as soon as we're done, my opponent goes, where'd you get that list? And I said, oh, it's a YouTuber. I can't remember his name. It escaped me at the moment. And he goes, Steadfast? And I was like, yeah, that's it. And he goes, yeah, that's me.
Oh my gosh. How
Played the
awesome.
guy's deck.
And beat him. So hoisted by his own petard.
So shout
Wait,
out to Steadfast.
hold on,
Awesome.
Were the changes, did you make the changes in your deck or did he make changes to the deck list?
He was experimenting with different cards in that list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put out something on the
squeaked out
video
win.
that's like 98% there, and then he tweaks it more to make it perfect, right? And then that's what he plays with.
Well, what we found, which is what I believe you will almost always find, is that if you cannot get your Popsicle and your Hiram Flavor Shim by turn 4, you're in big trouble. And that's what you'll find a lot with these combo-y decks. When I played Emerald Steel last season, it was like, if I don't get my whole new world by the time Kuzco goes down, I'm in big trouble. And so the first game I won because he had no cards. The second game I lost because I had no cards. And the third game I won because he had no cards. So that's just how it's going to go with that deck. Either you get your draw engine going or you're in big trouble.
So you mentioned that Popsicle is basically like the hot new thing, the cool new deck. It's really good. But we saw I think there was like 3 big events, including the official Lorcana event at PAX back east, where Ruby Amethyst was again dominating.
Right.
6 of the top 8, 6 of the yeah.
And
so,
however, they didn't all win those events.
Yeah. My thoughts on this and the meta have been evolving quickly over the last weekend. So anyone who's heard me complain before, I knows that I was pretty unhappy with the meta in the first chapter. For the first 6-7 weeks, it was a 1-deck meta, and it eventually evolved into a 2-deck meta, and everything else was useless. I know that you'll point to some outlier from some regional 1K where some random green purple deck won. I don't care. It was a Ruby, Amethyst, Control, and to a lesser degree, Steel Song meta. And that was it. Those were the only 2 decks you could play. Initially, when Floodborne launched, and I saw that there was a new control deck rising the ranks, that everyone was excited about this Popsicle control deck, I was like, great. Now we have 2 meta control decks, right? But I'm actually a lot more satisfied with where the meta is at today than I was at any point during chapter 1, for a few reasons. I think that because of the new draw power that almost every color got, that the decks that were just non-viable can put up a much better fight now, including the hyper aggro decks. That I think that you can play a Amber Amethyst, and it is a strong counter to the both control decks. I think it can work. When before it was just way too risky. Like to play the lemon lime deck, it just like could not survive. Any steel deck would destroy it, and that's still the case for aggro, right? But we
Yep.
have a much better sort of rock paper scissors laser Spock relationship between our decks today. There are 2 discard decks that are viable. Both the Amber Emerald and the Emerald Steel, I think, are viable discard decks. We have 2 different control decks that have an interesting dynamic between them. I think the Ruby Amethyst does outmatch the Popsicle. But it's slower to ramp. So the aggro has a better time against the Ruby Amethyst right now. So we have a pretty interesting this deck beats that deck, that big deck beats this deck going on right now. It does not feel like one deck or even 2 decks are just so far out ahead. And I also think Steel Song has really been put in check by Popsicle. So yeah, so I'm actually we'll see. We still need time to see how it settles, but I'm actually pretty happy right now that we have, I would say, 6 decks that you could play and you're not automatically going to lose. And I think that's something.
That's crazy. And I think one of the things that you didn't mention about why it's actually not as bad this time is that Ruby Amethyst, the new version, is now a faster deck.
Much faster, yeah.
It doesn't take 40 minutes to play a game.
Right. It makes those mirror matches way less painful. Yeah.
Right. And I think that was almost the number one complaint, was just like, it's such a slog and it's boring to play against Ruby Amethyst. And it's no longer boring. It's still frustrating, but at least it's not boring.
And you could not play the original Ruby Amethyst today. The decks are much faster today. Like you couldn't get away with it. And I think that's a big deal. And even the Popsicle mirror matches, they're still just like, my card removes your card removes my card removes your card. Like, but you know, Steadfast and I had no problem getting through 3 games and still having some time left on the clock. Whereas my Ruby Amethyst mirror matches last season, where it was sometimes it was hard to get through 1 game.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're seeing that problem so much anymore. And I think that's really good. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
It's purely anecdotal, but at my locals, games hardly go into overtime. Like, whereas in set 1, it was not uncommon for several people to be going into overtime. Now it's like there might be 1 set of players that are going into overtime. And it's nice that it's just moving faster.
I think the only thing that's going to go into overtime now is actually Steel Song, because those mirror matches, those are rough.
Yeah. I think, you're totally right. I think that is the roughest mirror match right now. Yeah. And with the control decks, it's just who gets their pieces first, right? Like who gets the better card draw.
Yeah.
But yeah, those Steel Song ones can be grueling for sure.
I've been testing out different versions of it because I've been hesitant the entire time to use a whole new world, because I just don't like replenishing my opponent's hand as well, especially when they're running out of cards.
Yeah.
But I'm finding that you kind of have to now. it's kind of necessary in Steel Song in order to keep replenishing, because you're playing so many cheaper songs, and you're playing them more often, and the more cheaper, a lot of cheaper characters. So unfortunately, I had to throw some whole new worlds in there, and I'll see how it goes.
I have to say, you guys know that I love Sapphire, but that's the thing that I love. That's the thing that I hate about Sapphires. Their removal benefits your opponent. Like in set one, when I played Ruby Amethyst, it's like they didn't care that Hades would come on and banish one of their characters because it was one card closer to getting Maleficent out, who would just banish my Hades. Ugh.
Yeah. and it's so man, I really do not like that Ruby now has a second banishing character with
Lady Tremaine.
It's so horrible.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on, man. I want to. Yeah, that's the whole thing about control. You're like, I just want to play. Let me play my character. Let me use it. Come on.
Right. I mean,
but having those flutes, or if you're playing something like a bounce deck, having all that stuff that can earn that lore without having to worry about your character sticking around, it's pretty nice.
Though I said I'm happier about the meta, I still am on the fence about whether or not Hiram was a mistake. There's still part of me that thinks they should not have made that card.
Too much draw, right?
Yeah, it's just it's unstoppable.
I was playing a game, and I think my opponent ended up with somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 or 13 cards in their hand.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm just waiting, and no whole new world came up because I wanted them to dump like 13 cards. No, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced. But if Popsicle doesn't end up being like, a tier 0 deck, then it wasn't a mistake. Right. It's okay. It can be checked. But boy, it feels bad.
When you look at the win rates on that are published by Pixelborn, Popsicle is not the best deck. Like, it only wins 45% of the time. What was interesting to me was it said that Amethyst Steel has the highest win percentage at 52%. And for me, that's not a deck that I've ran into a whole lot.
I still want to build that, though.
Pixelborn data is definitely valuable, but it does not reflect the meta. Certainly not at whatever your local store is necessarily, right?
And especially because you're not playing best out of 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Or on a clock.
A lot of people are taking, like, every weekend, after the weekend when there's some 1Ks and whatnot, people take those top decks and they start running them to see how they play. And so it's a bunch of people running the same decks into each other and just like regurgitating the results of the 1K, essentially.
Yeah. But I had a good night at my store on Monday. I went 3-1. I lost one game to the Amber Emerald, like hyper discard, the deck that won that very first weekend tournament on the first Saturday. And we went to 3 games. But when that Prince John comes out, you just got to dump your hand and hope for the best. And Ruby Sapphire's good at top decking, and I had a good amount of ink, but I didn't draw. I needed to be prepared, and it just didn't come. And that's really the only way to play against that crazy fast discard deck, is to just like don't let them force you to discard. Dump your hand and just hope you top deck what you need. That's kind of the only way to counter it, I think.
Yeah, it's not fun. All right, so what else has been going on? What else are we going to talk about for tonight's episode, because we're closing in on that hour?
The one thing I wanted to talk about was one of your articles, Eric. I was talking about good old Hiram Flaversham.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's debatable. It's debatable how annoying he is. I agree. But you wrote this in one of your articles, and I really like, this is something that struck me. One of Lorcana's biggest charms is its ability to spotlight unexpected characters, and Hiram Flaversham is the best example of that. Who would have thought the 5th build character in a movie from the 80s that almost no one remembers would be the center of a new archetype? the subject of so much ire at LGSs across the world, and the thumbnail on countless YouTube videos. Not me, and I love that movie. Very much looking forward to a guy called Fluter Flam making me want to tear my hair out next season. And for me, like, that's the magic of Lorcana, is that these unknown, forgotten characters, they do get a chance to shine in the spotlight. Like, they could easily have made, this card, Donald Duck, or Pluto or Mickey or Mufasa or Simba or anything. But out of all the people in the world, it was, like you say, the fifth build character in a movie from the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I agree with me, first of all. That's a really good point that I made. Yeah, that is such a cool thing about this game. I love Stitch and I love Robin Hood and I love all the big characters, but I didn't know or even ever guess or wonder if Hiram Flaversham was going to be in Lorcana, and yet here he is, and he's maybe the most important character in the game right now. That is such a cool thing. Like the way that this game is going to continue to surprise us like that is what makes me really excited about the future.
It's just so much fun knowing that they can pull these characters, and he's not super obscure. He's in
He's
one of their
pretty
major
obscure.
He's pretty obscure, but he's not like, someone who showed up like, I mean, okay, the mouse armor item, that's super obscure.
Yeah.
That's like in the background of like a couple of shots in the Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's super obscure. But it's stuff like that that is just so much fun. As you mentioned, it's cool. It's so cool that they can bring that in and make it an important piece of this game. And I'm just excited to see what other random background stuff gets put in, which characters they highlight and make into Dreamborns and Floodborns that are just, exciting new versions of characters that we think we know. And just the art that is just going to continually, I think, astound us and amaze us with the quality as we go forward. And just like seeing just the little bits we get with this set 3 announcement, just seeing all of this little bits is just it's so encouraging to see that they're just continuing to just make it bigger and better. And if they continue on at this level for the rest of the game, then they're fine.
Well, now that they're bringing in 90s cartoons, I mean, they already had an unlimited amount of characters that they could bring in, both through Storyborn, but also through Dreamborn and Floodborn variants. But now, if you're talking about every character who's been in DuckTales, or every character who's been in Tailspins, or Chippendale Rescue Rangers, or Gargoyles, or Darkwing Duck, like the possibilities truly are like, there's no need to ever bring in. I know this is the popular debate, but there'd be no need to ever bring in something like Star Wars or Marvel. Like, this game could go on literally forever.
Oh my gosh, I just realized something. Do you still have the screen share pulled up?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, you're looking at the products?
Yes.
Okay, the background?
Yeah.
Does that look familiar to you at all?
I mean, it kind of looks like the inside of a tree, but also like a relief map.
Do you guys have any of the new promo cards from this season?
I've
No.
got the Robin Hood.
Yeah. Isn't that the background in the text box?
I'm
Well,
promo-less.
I'm not going to stop the show to go look for my cards, but
Me too.
we'll compare tomorrow. Oh yeah, go grab yours.
I'll go grab it.
I think it is. I think we got a teaser for Inklands in the current season's promo cards.
That would be pretty wild.
Maybe it's just similar, but the way the lines are going in this like swirly diagonal pattern on the yellow background makes me think that they match.
I was with James. I just thought this was like a relief of a desert location or something.
James has returned.
You are correct.
Yes! Look at that.
Wow.
Okay. What
It's
a
got
cool
those
detail.
swirls. Look at that little tease they put in without even telling us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's crazy.
You're gonna have to make sure to tweet that out.
So maybe the next promo cards for next season will give us a clue about what set 4 is.
Everybody's
Yes,
going to be looking.
We have to pay attention to everything.
All right. Shall we go into the ending segments, James?
Sure. That means it's time for Lorcana Lexicon. Do we have a word for Lorcana Lexicon this week?
I actually didn't come up with anything.
Diff?
Diff.
Diff?
What's diff?
So diff's not specifically a TCG thing, but you'll hear people say it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like differential?
Yeah, a difference or differential. So like, let's say you play a mirror match and you have a card that's different in your deck versus theirs, and you win because of that card. Let's say I've grabbed the swords in mine and you don't, then you have a grab your swords diff because that was the card that won you the game. And the
There
diff
you
could
go.
be lots of different things. It could even just be my big brain diff.
Well, that's always in your favor there. It's awesome. Lorcana Lexicon of the week. Diff.
Diff.
Well, actually, Eric, I send this to James. There's somebody on YouTube who created a channel called Lorcana Lexicon. And James says,
Oh,
what is that? What is that saying? Flattery is the highest form of praise.
imitation's the highest form of flattery.
There it is. There it is. My brain is not working today.
Well, that's cool. Let's see if they do diff now.
And that means, okay, so we've covered diff, Lorcana Lexicon, and that means it's time for Disney Jeopardy, right?
I was gonna say we pretty much covered all the news today. So yeah, Disney Jeopardy.
Guys, I've been so bad at Disney Jeopardy.
Did you find some good ones, some really tough ones? Make
I
sure
don't
he
think
goes
so.
like 2 for
I
5
did-
or something.
I did find a really tough one, but I'm gonna ask that as a bonus question. So I got 5 that I think are reasonable.
Reasonable.
Are you ready? Are you ready,
I
Eric?
guess.
Okay. For 100,
Uh-huh.
and if you need to pull your cards out, you can. Captain Hook has a hook on which hand?
Captain Hook has a hook on his left hand.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hey.
Good job. All right, for 200, name one of the 3 caballeros that isn't Donald.
Pablo?
So close.
Oh, Pedro?
It does have a P.
Padre?
Panchito.
Panchito?
Panchito Pistoles.
What's the other one called?
Isn't it
Jose.
Jose.
I'm gonna give it to you because I mean you were on the right track.
Don't give it to him.
I
Don't give
rode
it
the
to him.
ride at Epcot, but I've never seen the movie.
Championship rules.
I'm giving it to you.
All right.
James is being overridden here. Okay, for 300. Okay. For 300, the actor who voices Baloo in the Jungle Book is also the voice of this character in the Aristocats.
Thomas O'Malley.
Ding, 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 ding.
O'Malley the alley cat.
He has such a distinctive voice.
Yeah.
Okay, for 400, this is the name of Tiana's restaurant at the end of the movie Princess and the Frog.
Well, at Disneyland, it's called Tiana's Place. So that's what I'm going with.
Is it place or is it palace?
Oh, is it Tiana's Palace?
But still, that's pretty close. Yes, it's
I was
Tiana's
one letter
Palace.
off.
It's
Yes.
Tiana's Place.
Palais. Yeah, I said Palais.
Oh, yes, you're right. My ears. I told you my brain wasn't working today. Okay, this one is a little tough. We'll see. For 500, this is the name of the game in which Wreck-It Ralph resides.
Oh man, is it just Fix It Felix? Is it Felix Fix It? Is it
Fix It, Felix.
adventure. Fix It Felix 2.
Close. So what's the name of anyway? It's not Fix It Felix Senior.
Fix It Felix Jr.
Ding 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 ding.
Oh, did we ever see Felix Senior?
No, I don't
I
think so.
don't think so. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
think so. I mean, Beth might correct me, but on the internets, that's what it said. The name of Fix It Felix Jr. That's what it said the name of the game was.
Gotcha.
Do you want to hear the bonus question here?
Yeah.
I would never have guessed this one. Well, maybe. This movie was originally going to be titled The Kingdom of the Sun.
Whoa. The Kingdom of the Sun?
Right?
John
I
Carter?
know. I think I know.
It's an animated
Atlantis?
movie. It's
Is it
an animated
Atlantis?
movie. Which one?
Atlantis?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Riot?
No.
Oh.
No. It's The Emperor's New Groove.
What?
Okay. Well, I'm glad they changed that. That's terrible. That's not a good name at all.
No, it's really not.
He's not even a son. Well, I guess he's somebody's son, but he doesn't have a mom or a dad.
Typical Disney person. No parent.
Yeah, that's true. Sure.
All right, let's wrap this up. Eric, if people want to find you, they can find you at The Gamer, and where else can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter, formerly X, or X, formerly Twitter, at Epic Switzer. That's my tweets. I'm also getting pretty invested in the Gamer's YouTube channel. I think it's at the Gamer website, or you can just search the Gamer. We do a lot of Lorcana stuff on there now too. We've got pack openings. We did a sealed showdown, which was really fun. We opened 2 troves, built our decks, and then played a game. Bit of a long video, but I think it's pretty fun. And I'm going to be doing a lot more Lorcana stuff on there. So, and I do tons of other stuff. We did Game of the Year videos. We did the Game Awards, where we went through all the nominees and picked our choices. So if you're into video game stuff too, I just put up a review for Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which I quite enjoyed. Good video game. So yeah, check out my videos on the Gamer's YouTube.
When I think the video you did with Ryan Miller, where you're going over gameplay, it's got over 100,000 views now, right?
It's got over 170,000 views now.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll get to 200 eventually.
That's like probably 165,000 more views than James and I have gotten on our YouTube channel.
I'm really proud of that one. 177,000. Yeah, that was a big project. That was a long time in the making. So I'm really happy that one that people liked it.
All right. So, and if you liked what you heard, you can subscribe to us on YouTube here. You can follow us on the podcasting platform of your choice. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Citizens of Lorcana. And James, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere online at Dan Regal, and you can check out geekshotphoto.com for links for my wife and I, social media and all that. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.